Hey everybody. I've never seen one of these little things before. Is it you just talk and it conveys? Everybody can hear me all right? But my name's Mason Hurley. I'm an alcoholic. And, sobriety date is September 15th of 2010, and I do have a home group. It's in Holly Springs. It's not even an hour up the road from here. If you drive like I drive, it's about 40 minutes. Right up US 1. It's called There Is a Solution Group, and we meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7. And it's a great group. I think it's my home group. I love it. We really believe in the traditions and having what I believe is a structured message of Alcoholics Anonymous. So it's good to be here. I know quite a few people in the room. I've gotten to know quite a few people from the Southern Pines area over the years and have always felt welcome here. I'm a big golfer, so I live in this fantasy land sometimes. I'm sure no one else can identify with that, but I live in this fantasy that I'm going to win the lottery and retire down here on a nice golf course and just play golf my whole life and never have to worry about anything. That's yet to happen, but Steve did take me to go play golf and some other guys in the room, and we won't talk about your golf game, but we had a good time. But that's just one of the millions of gifts of Alcoholics Anonymous. I never thought when I came in here at the age of 21 that I'd be able to do stuff like play golf or ever enjoy hobbies ever again. I mean, that's just one of the many things, right? Like Alcoholics Anonymous has given me life. It's given me sobriety, and to meet so many awesome people. For so long, I thought that I was alone. Nobody understands what it's like to be me and to drink like I drink, and man, how wrong I was. There was a fellowship waiting, and you guys scooped me up, and when I took the action, my life completely changed. I do, unfortunately, I'm still at a point in my sobriety, I do sometimes have to give disclaimers before I speak. I have been taught Alcoholics Anonymous in a really, really traditional, I think, strong way. That doesn't always mean I portray that, and it doesn't, I still suffer sometimes. My mind works faster than my mouth. Like, I'll think good stuff and say wrong things. And you guys it's funny about speaking, you guys have really trusted in me. I have an hour or so, or 50 minutes I can say whatever I want. And with that, it's dangerous, but yet it's a very, what a responsibility that is, right? For 50 minutes, I'm trusted to carry the AA message in a good way, to share my experience, and to hopefully give some hope to somebody in the room. I think about that a lot. Like, why do we have speaker meetings? Why do we, why do we do this? It's not, I think that I thought when I was new sitting in the speaker meeting, I thought the person was paid. Like a corporation, like a pep rally, like he's a paid speaker. Of course he's going to say good things about AA. And I'm not paid. No one's paying me to come here. I'm that passionate about sobriety, and AA has worked in my life. I want to do this. I want to be of service to somebody. The best compliment someone could ever give after a talk would not be, "You're awesome, great story." It would be, you gave me hope. You helped me. Like, that would be the best thing ever. You carried the message in a good way. You're a good example of AA. That would mean the world. That's really the only objective. I say all that, but who knows what'll happen. But Alcoholics Anonymous has changed my life, the 12 steps, and I'm a big believer in sponsorship and home group. I would be lost if it wasn't for a great sponsor, an awesome home group, the steps, friends, the fellowship, prayer, all those things together are for me what Alcoholics Anonymous really is, a series of actions that changed my life and removed that obsession to drink. So my story starts, that was pretty good, right? Is that it? Just quick and to the point. So my story starts in Goldsboro. That's where I was born. I moved to Raleigh when I was 14, had never picked up a drink before moving to Raleigh. When I moved to Raleigh, something happened. I tried alcohol for the first time, and I don't think that my personal story, I don't believe I was an alcoholic, born an alcoholic per se. I wasn't really showing a lot of tendencies. If you ask my family, I was pretty normal. I enjoyed things that 14-year-olds did, but when I moved to Raleigh, I felt very out of place, and Raleigh was very different than Goldsboro. I think Goldsboro is probably very similar to this area. It's just a nice, small country town, and that was like a big city, and kids were different, and I didn't fit in, and I felt this need to get companionship and to feel a part of. So I picked up alcohol for the first time, and what it did for me was it just exceeded my expectations. I didn't know that I was full of fear at the age of 14. I know today that I was. I didn't know that I was struggling to connect with people. I didn't know that I didn't have friends, but when I tried alcohol, it lit me up so bright. It made me feel a part of the kids I was hanging out with. I wasn't scared to talk to them. I remember taking that drink, and it was liquor, and the warmth that it gave my body, like the physical high that it gave me, was unforgettable. I mean, I still don't forget it. I mean, it was just like I became a different person, and I loved it. I do believe that that's one of the reasons I became so dependent on alcohol, is because it did so much for me. I think that some people drink and I think alcohol gives everybody some sort of effect, but for me, it just seemed like it did way more for me that day than it did anyone else who was around me. I just fell in love with it. And I think I'm in a room full of people who kind of understand that feeling and understand how powerful alcohol is. So my drinking was a blast the first few years. Being 14, there wasn't a whole lot of trouble to get into besides the skipping school, getting caught smoking cigarettes, and coming home smelling like alcohol. My first couple years of drinking was a lot of fun. I do believe, like our literature says, if there would have been a consequence in those first couple years that was sufficient, like something really bad happened, I don't think I was too far gone where I could have stopped on my own. Our literature kind of refers to that like young people may be encouraged by the man of 30 and what he was just able to stop. But not many young people want to quit. Why would you want to? It's still fun. I had no reason to stop drinking at all. And some of the initial trouble I would get into was mainly with my mom. She would smell alcohol on my breath, and she would threaten to, you're going to be on a curfew, or you're grounded, or, but I grew up in still that age, but I grew up in an age where kids it's just my opinion, I was given way too much. I was not supervised enough as a kid. My mom worked a lot. She had a life outside of me, and there were pretty much the whole day I was by myself to do whatever I wanted to do, and that was drink. So to go along a little bit, my first major consequences was when I was 17. I went to a school dance at my high school. It was homecoming. I dressed up in a really nice outfit, kind of similar to what I'm wearing tonight. Got on a limousine, and it was party time. We a limo full of 16 and 17-year-olds drinking, going into the high school dance, and sure enough, we got caught drinking at school, and I had every opportunity to get out of trouble that night. I mean, people were just telling me, just walk away. The police officers were telling me to walk away, and I'm just a fighter. When I get drunk, I don't know what it is. Not even physical fight, like I'm very argumentative. And if you question me, even if you're a police officer and you're telling me, hey, you will get arrested if you don't walk away, like I'm the guy that won't walk away. I'm just like arguing, and I'm not aware of my surroundings. I'm convinced that no one knows I'm drunk. No one, I can talk slicker than you can. I can talk my way out of anything. You don't, I was just delusional, when I drink. And I walked my way into trouble that night and got arrested for the first time at the age of 17. And I had a tragic experience in jail. I mean, just being 17 years old in a holding cell with a bunch of adults and a bunch of criminals was a very scary night for me. I don't know if I ever consciously said to myself in jail the first time that I'll never drink again, but I had what I learned in AA is called like a moment of clarity that night. I could see clearly that from the age of 14 to 17, alcohol was starting to control my life a little bit. I could see that my grades were slowing down. I could see that I was not interested in sports anymore. I wasn't interested in positive things in life. I was living to drink even at the age of 17, and I had this inner feeling that, like, it's not too late, Mason. You can do something. You can change this. You can, pick yourself up. Tomorrow's a new day. You can stop drinking. You can do this. You can get back involved in sports. You can still live a good life. It's not too late. And I left jail with every intention of not drinking or slowing down and getting my life together. And part of my story is one of the themes I'll hit on is that I was absolutely unable to stop drinking with those moment of clarities. I had a bunch of them. I mean, it seemed like every 2 weeks I had a different spiritual experience. I'm going to quit drinking. What you watch, I'll show you. And I was never able to do it. And I really, truly believe what I've been taught here by you guys is that alcoholism isn't characterized by consequences. I mean, my story is full of going to jail and getting in tons of trouble. But that common characteristic that I found is that is just that. When I honestly wanted to quit, when I was honestly in jail and told myself, don't do this again, I was unable to do it. And when I told myself to slow down and only do it on the weekends, I was not able to do that either. I got out of jail, and it was around Thanksgiving. The homecoming dance was in fall, and then Thanksgiving, I had managed to put together, I think, 3 weeks of sobriety, which is quite an accomplishment for an alcoholic who's just white-knuckling it. I was pretty proud of myself. No intention of drinking. I have a terrible habit, too. I know no one will relate to this, but I put myself in really bad situations when I'm sober, trying to stay sober. I went to a house party, really just fist pump in the air, like, I'm going to stay sober, life is good. And, of course, there was alcohol there, and I'll never forget it. One of my friends came up to me and said, do you want a drink? And I said, yes. It never, I mean, that... I think the book talks about that, our whole literature, right? Talks about how quick I forget the consequences, how quick I had completely forgotten of what I had told myself in jail, that I'd forgotten all reasons why I don't drink. And just that idea was easily pushed aside in the favor that, this time will be different. This time, it's not a big deal. It's Thanksgiving. It's a house party. So what you do, you drink. And I have a lot of funny stories. I don't know if it's ever appropriate to tell a bunch of crazy stories, but just for you guys, that night I ended up stealing my friend's car and wrecked it. And it still drove, and I drove it back to the house, and he was sleeping when I took the keys out of his pocket. And when I returned, I was able to put the keys back, kind of jam them in his pocket. And he woke up, and his car was destroyed. And I remember he confronted everyone in the house and he goes, what happened to my car? Who stole my car? And my other friends genuinely didn't know. They thought it was him, and I was just on the bandwagon of, yeah, man, you did this. I can't believe you've done this. What are you going to do? And the best part about that story is really who the guy is, because he's sober in AA for 8 years now. And I did make amends to that. I remember telling him, and of course, so much time had passed. He was like, "Man, it's actually quite funny." But that's just kind of the type of person I was. It's your friend probably would have let you borrow the car. Why are you driving drunk to begin with? This is the first night drunk after 3 weeks of being sober. Of course, I underestimated how powerful alcohol is. It took me just a couple drinks, and I was gone after a few weeks of not drinking. My tolerance, And on through the months, I would continue to kind of hop back and forth, and just what happened to me over the next 9 months is quite confusing to people who don't know alcoholism. Is I got better. It's really strange. I don't know how that works, but I didn't spiral downhill. That's the way my story goes. Is I know what's going to happen next. I'm going to go to jail and something terrible is going to happen. No, I was able to hold it together. It's crazy how alcohol kind of tricks us. The book says that we will pull it together sometimes for a period of time, and it gives everyone hope. Bill Wilson says it in his story. The goose hung high for a while, and there'd be these periods of sobriety that would renew his wife's hopes, and he would build up this great life for himself and then just crash it down. And that's what happened. I was able to pull it together for a few months, convince my family that I was prepared to go to college. And that my grades, I was able to pick up my grades just enough to kind of, that was the goal, is I don't want to be the kid who graduates high school and isn't able to go to college. Now, obviously, after what I've told you guys, if y'all were my parents, you probably wouldn't pay for me to go to Wilmington to go to college. That's a bad idea. But part of my story, too, is how alcoholism affected my family and how it affected my mom and dad and their decision-making. They're both very bright, non-alcoholic people, and they make smart decisions, and my story is a good example of them making some pretty poor decisions, because I do believe what our literature says, that alcohol alcoholism is a family illness. It affected my mom and dad. It affected their brain too. You know, some of the things I did to them hurt them and changed their brains too. You know, but the good news is when I got sober, you guys taught me how to introduce AA to them. You know, today my family are recovered. They don't suffer from that sick and twisted thinking like they used to. You know, they've been able to help other family members in AA, and that's if you're a family member in the room, you know, there's hope for everybody in the family. And I think that's one of the biggest promises that AA gives is that regardless of if your family member gets sober, the family member can be happy and live free. You know, that's my family's experience. So go to Wilmington for college. I went to Cape Fear Community College. It's a great place to drink. So very quickly, just with no parental supervision, I was introduced to a whole new world of drinking, you know, and had a great time being drunk at the beach and not going to class at all, and everything that goes along with that. You can fill in the blanks. All that stuff happened. Experimenting with all sorts of substances and just going overshooting the mark with everything I tried. And kind of the turning point in Wilmington came when I woke up one morning and something happened that I believe happens for most of us is I take that back. I don't know if it happens for anyone else. It happened for me. I woke up and for the first time I experienced like alcohol withdrawal. Something I'd never experienced before, like physically needing alcohol. Like it was the first time I woke up in the morning sweating, shaking. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was super hungry. I was really tired, but like I can't describe it. I mean, only maybe alcoholics know that feeling of waking up and you physically have to have it, like being completely dependent upon alcohol. And I was scared to death. To be 18 years old and experience that is really scary. But I'm full-blown addicted to alcohol. I mean, it is what it is, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, who do you talk to when you're 18 years old about that? You know, hey, buddy, I think I'm an alcoholic. Like, I have to drink, and I'm willing to steal. I'm willing to lie. I'm willing to do anything. I can tell you what's not going to happen. I'm not going to eat, sleep, or do anything productive until I have alcohol. That is a guarantee. I mean, I could just feel it within me. And that's what I started to do. I mean, I was raised with a good moral compass on what was right and what was wrong. And I mean, those morals were thrown out the window when it came to my alcoholism. I was willing to do really bad things to get what I needed and to get money to buy alcohol. Took me to some dark places. And my friends in Wilmington did an intervention on me. They could see that something was going wrong. They came into my room, and what they saw was the room of an active alcoholic, which is a pretty ugly sight. You know, my room was destroyed. I had just nasty stuff everywhere, liquor bottles. It was obvious that I was not doing too good. And they tried to help me. I still can't explain the generosity of people in life. How many people tried to help me get sober? I mean, the list goes on and on. And my friends in Wilmington genuinely wanted to see me do better, and I failed them. I couldn't stop drinking. I ended up stealing from almost every single one of my friends there. The same people that offered to help me or take me somewhere to get help, I would end up stealing from them, and that's alcoholism. So I lasted about 6 months there, and I moved back to Raleigh. I got a job doing. I thought it was this heroic job. It was described to me as like hurricane relief work, but it was really you just. I think the company is actually stationed, like the home base is somewhere around here. Anyways, it was when Hurricane Ike and Gustav had hit Louisiana and Texas, and you basically just drive around refueling generators for the cell phone towers when a hurricane hits. It was described to me as I was going to be like helping people recover from the hurricane, but there was none of that. You just drove around and drank all day. It was a perfect job. I'd never really been out west or that far west in the country, so I got to see Louisiana and Texas and just got to be drunk the entire time. Police are not enforcing drunk driving. There's so much catastrophe that had happened in the Galveston area, and it was just it was miserable. There were many times I was alone in Texas in a truck by myself drinking, just thinking, man, I think I'm better off just killing myself. I mean, that's the telltale sign of that alcoholism in me is I had everything I wanted that day. I was by myself. No one could bother me. I had all the alcohol in the world, and I'm still not happy. I'm still miserable. I'm still thinking about killing myself. Like, what is it going to take to get me happy? I'm always trying to manipulate my life and get things perfect. And here I am, you know, with what I always wanted, and I'm miserable. And I called my family and had to quit that job and went back to Raleigh. And I've never heard, no one's suggesting AA, no one's suggesting treatment. At this time, what my detoxes look like is just laying on my mom's couch for about 3 or 4 days, and my mom and dad just supervising me into sobriety. You know, go get a job. We'll make sure you go straight from work. I'm the 20-year-old, 19-year-old kid that my mom has to drive me to work and pick me up because she's terrified I'm going to go get drunk, you know. And I mean, I was full-blown by the age of 18, 19 years old. Eventually I relapsed, stole from my mom, stole a lot of her collectibles, and she kicked me out, pressed charges against me. My dad was living in Smithfield at the time. I go and stay with him. Smithfield, if you're familiar with that, it's not a great place to get sober either. There's alcohol there, just like anywhere. And of course, I would find creative ways to sneak around my dad and convince him that I was sober. And so this one night we were, got plenty of time here. This is a really good example of how crazy, you know, my behavior had influenced my dad. But we see a commercial on TV for a golf school in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And this golf school is super lucrative. You pay like $30,000. You get to go to Hilton Head, South Carolina. You get to learn about golf for 16 months. And all you have to do is play golf and go to class, and you graduate with this degree in professional golf management, which allows you to get like a professional job at one of these country clubs in the area here. And my dad looked at me and said, "I think that'd be really good for you." And I looked at him and said, "You're right. You're absolutely right. This is the break I need. Somebody's willing to put their faith in me. I love golf. Yeah, just pay all this money." My parents are not wealthy by any stretch, and $30,000 is a lot of money to anybody, if you ask me. And here I go on this journey to Hilton Head to go to a golf college, completely unsupervised. I mean, my dad, what was he thinking? You know what I mean? Like, it's clearly not his fault. I mean, I agreed to go, but it was paradise. I mean, if you've been to Hilton Head, you know it's a beautiful place, and the golf courses are great, and that liquor is real good, you know. And I mean, it was just everywhere I went, I was getting in worse and worse trouble. The amounts of the intervals were getting shorter and shorter of my sobriety, me stopping. I mean, it was becoming, I'd quit for maybe a day and then go on a 3 or 4 month run. I'd quit for 2 days, do it again. I was physically sick. I weighed probably about 110 pounds. I couldn't hold food down. I was a skeleton. I looked rough. And just did a lot of things I'm not proud of in Hilton Head. Was an active alcoholic, you know. And of course, after about 2 months, I stopped going to school completely. I continued to call my dad and update him, tell him, you know, yeah, I'm doing real good in school, straight A's, doing well. I mean, there was 4 months that my dad thought I was in school that I actually wasn't. And just drinking, living to drink, drinking to live, you know, just, I was so ashamed to call my dad and tell him I dropped out and I was, you know, back on drinking that I called my cousin in Wilmington and said, and kind of, hey, alcohol, I'm so strange, but I'm so good at getting honest with the right people if it means that I benefit. Like, I was never going to call my dad and say, "Dad, I'm an alcoholic, I need help." But I was willing to call my cousin and say, "Kevin, I'm an alcoholic, I need to come live with you." You know, I like came clean. I completely just vomited on him and told him everything I was doing with the intention that he would have sympathy. You know, he would invite me into his home. He would give me another chance. And so I go to Wilmington, stay with him, and he set me down. He said, "Look, I'm willing to help you, whatever you need. Let's come up with a game plan. What is your game plan to get your life on track and to stop drinking?" I said, "Well, the best I can tell is whenever I'm tempted is when I drink. That's common sense. If you're trying to stop something, just stay away from it." And so, now that's false. I know today in alcohol, what you guys have taught me, that's not true. But that's what I thought then. And it made sense then. And so our plan was I was literally going to be locked in his apartment all day, every day, and that way I was never tempted to drink. I had no car keys. He was taking the car keys while he went to work, and I would just be in the apartment all day. And once I got through maybe like a month or two, the obsession would be removed, and I'd go back into society. I mean, God, that's so crazy. You know what I mean? But I get it. I get why him and I agreed that. I get kind of the thinking of that. But we know that alcoholism doesn't work like that. It's, I was just a bomb waiting to explode. And I'd find myself bored day after day in that apartment, shivering, shaking, can't eat, and I'm going through all my cousin's stuff, figuring out what I can pawn to get money, what I can steal. And under his bed, I found an empty checkbook. And that's like gold to me, man. That's my forte. I love writing fake checks. And I remember I wrote my first check. I didn't want it to be noticed, so it was for like $20, and the memo said "Happy birthday, cousin," and take it into the bank. And then every day the dollar amount was becoming more and more and more. And he found out, and it was a really ugly scene. Him and I got in a really bad fist fight over some other stuff. I actually tried to blackmail him by saying that he had thrown away this medication that I was on that I needed. And I told him he had something with his heart. He had a real bad heart condition, still does. And he takes really important medicine for his heart. And I said, Kevin, if you, I don't think you understand how important this medicine is to me. You owe me $200 to get my prescription filled. But I know a way to make you understand. So I took his heart medicine and I threw it outside and threw it out the window. And that's the type of guy I am, is that I'll throw away the medicine you really need over some medicine that doesn't even exist so I can get $200 and blackmail you. That's how desperate I was, and that's where my alcoholism took me. We got in a fist fight, and he finally said, okay, I'll give you the $200 if you leave and you never come back. And that's what I wanted the whole time. And that night, I went and hung out with a girlfriend of mine in Wilmington, and we were partying and celebrating how I had just gotten $200, and she went unconscious. She was being pumped full of all the alcohol you can imagine and all sorts of substances. I mean, it was fair game at that point, and she went unconscious, and it terrified me. I had never been around somebody who wasn't alive like that. I didn't know what to do. So I cleaned up her apartment, walked down to the Cape Fear River in downtown Wilmington, threw the trash in the river, went back, tried to call the police, and as soon as I started hitting the send button, she woke up. And I had this idea that she was very lucky to have me, that if it wasn't for me, she'd be dead. Most people just run away. And I told her that and convinced her that if it was anybody else in this apartment, they wouldn't have done what I did, and you owed me for that. You're going to let me stay with you for the next week, and you're going to pay for me to live here. And like that's really the type of person I was then, is that I will find any way to get into your life and to get what I want. This girl just almost died. You know what I mean? And the truth was that I was just going to call the police and run. But when she woke up, I used it as an opportunity. You know what I mean? And that's just, it's an embarrassing story, but that's just the truth. That's the type of person I was, and I didn't feel bad about it. I didn't go to sleep that night regretting it. I thought, you know what, I'm smart. I take advantage of situations, And a couple of weeks would go by, and one day I called my mom and asked her for some money. And she had said she was in contact with a friend of hers whose son had been to a treatment center in Raleigh. And so they were kind of teaming up to get both of us to go to treatment. And she said, Mason, I'm not giving you any more money, but if you want help, I will come get you and I will take you to treatment. And for whatever reason, I agreed. I don't know why, but I did. And found myself in an AA meeting for the first time. And that day is an important day for me. It was March 1st of 2010. That was the day that I heard my first speaker meeting. And I was at heard my first speaker. And it was powerful. I heard a guy talk about alcoholism like I had never heard before. It was that night, I think, smashed this delusion that I was alone and that no one knew what it was like to drink like I did. He told a really good story. I'll never forget it, and I know who the guy is. He told a story about how he had 2 kids, and he had to pick them up from daycare at 5 in the afternoon. And he got off work at like 3. And the hardest time of day for him was from 3 to 5, was because he loved drinking, but he knew he couldn't drink before he picked up his kids from daycare. You know, he would put his kids at risk for being drunk. And he never had the self-control to just have one drink. Like, if he drank at 3, he was going to get plastered and then go pick up his kids. And he knew that's a bad idea. But that was the hardest time of day for him because of that battle, you know, in his head. And when he spoke that, I was like, man, I get that. Like, I don't even have kids, but I do understand what you're saying. I get it. You know, I understand that battle. And then he finished the story by saying eventually he succumbed to the desire. He drank, got pulled over, and lost his kids. And I just thought, man, I can't believe this guy's sharing that from the podium. You know what I mean? I thought that was just kind of embarrassing, you know. But that's AA. That's what we do here. I mean, he didn't care if it was embarrassing. He was there to serve a purpose, and he served a purpose that night. It hit me. And I knew then that I wasn't alone. I knew then that there were people like me and that there was help for me here. Now, knowing that guy today, I know for a fact he talked about sponsorship. I know he talked about what to do with that hopeless feeling. He talked about taking action. I know he talked about getting a home group and giving every single thing you have to Alcoholics Anonymous. But I didn't hear any of that. Maybe I wasn't ready for any of that. Because the next day I woke up in detox, convinced that I didn't need treatment. I don't need AA. Now that, you know, self-knowledge will fix me. Now that I know what's wrong with me, I'll just go live life. I know what's wrong. I can't drink. I'll stay away from the first drink. The way that guy said it makes so much sense now. The light has come on. I'm good. Thank you, guys. I'm good. And we know how that works out. I went home, went to my mom's house, hung out with, of course, I get a phone call from some old friends. What a great idea. Go hang out with some old friends. They were bowling. They said, just have one with us. Of course, I'd just have one. That turned into 3. That turned into 10. Eventually, it turned into me taking my mom's car that night and selling it at a used car dealership. And the car was worth about $10,000, and I got $3,000. When someone shows you $3,000, you just take it. I'm not going to insult the guy, you know what I mean? So I sold my mom's car that day, and mind you, this is the same day I left detox. I mean, that's how my alcoholism works. I mean, I had no intention of drinking. It started with one innocent drink at a bowling alley, turned into I don't know how many, then turned into me going on a spree, and then needing money and saying, I don't need this car. I'll buy a cheaper car. And, you know, of course, I never bought a cheaper car. The $3,000, I don't know where it went, you know. So later on that summer, I would actually float in and out of AA for about 6 months, between March and September when I would get sober. I was coming into Alcoholics Anonymous. It's strange. I have a habit in AA today of being a little bit judgmental when people come in and out of AA. They come in for a couple days or a few weeks or a few months, they relapse and come back. I swear, it's me. Like, I'm the guy that will be silently judgmental. And then I think about it, like, that was me for 6 months. Like, I was the guy that came in and out for 6 months, and no matter how bad you guys tried to help me, I just wasn't receptive. I wasn't catching what you guys were throwing out. I wasn't willing. Maybe I didn't think I was an alcoholic, or didn't think that I had to fully give myself to AA, you know. So, you know, I'm glad I remembered that, because there's no reason for me to be judgmental, man. If that's you and you're in the room, like, I understand. I've been there. I don't know if I have the magic formula of the pixie dust to cure anybody, but I understand. I can identify with coming in and out for 6 months. And I would continue to do that. And this one night, it was late August of 2010, I was in another house with another girl who went unconscious. And I'm starting to put myself in some really bad spots. And this time, I left the house. And this time, that girl didn't wake up. She died that night. And the next morning, I went to jail. And, you know, talk about the 4 horsemen, you know, talk about those feelings of just, you know, wanting to die and just not knowing what was going to happen. I sat in jail in Durham County and just convinced my life was over. I mean, I knew that the show was over. I was going to prison for the rest of my life. I knew what I had done. I knew what I didn't do, more importantly. I didn't call for help. I made no attempt whatever to help the girl. I just left her. And I felt it that night. I just knew in my heart of hearts, I can't explain it, but I knew that if I ever was able to get out of jail, I would go to treatment, I would get help, I would come to AA, I would do anything that anybody asked of me. I just knew it. I knew it in my heart of hearts. I knew. And a couple days later, I was able to get out under my dad's supervision, pending the investigation of the girl's death. And the day that I got out, I drank again. I don't know any better definition of alcoholism. I am in jail for a girl's death. I have felt some sort of spiritual experience. I know it. I was in jail. I felt something. And the voice said, I just knew I would never drink again. I felt it. And I drank again. And that's alcoholism, I guess. I don't have any other explanation. I would continue to do that for the next few weeks. I mean, I don't like, the book says it, no matter what the consequences, it just didn't matter. It did not matter. On September 15th, I found myself being kicked out of my dad's house. I went to that treatment center. I had no intentions of drinking, I had no intentions of getting sober. What happened that day is that it's kind of anticlimactic, I think the word is. Nothing really happened that day. There's nothing, no lightning bolt came down. I didn't have any sort of experience. I was at the treatment center, which I had been there many times before. And for whatever reason, I decided to do what the treatment center asked. It's a very unique place, actually. They really strongly believe in AA, and they make you participate in AA, kind of. And but they have their own little spin on this curriculum that they teach you, but it's all AA based. It's really based on the AA history. It's kind of cool, a little controversial, but for whatever reason that day, I decided to kind of slowly start taking things seriously. When they said go to a meeting, I went. I didn't fight it. I didn't try to get out of doing AA. Like, for whatever reason, September 15th of 2010, I became just a little bit willing. And for 30 days, I would go to a ton of meetings. I would socialize with a ton of people in AA. But I never really... I just never was paying attention in the meetings, I'll be honest. The first 30 days I was sober, I was not interested in really the steps. I wasn't interested in doing AA. I was really just buying my time. Because at about 2 weeks sober, I had a meeting with my dad and an attorney, and the attorney said that it was everything he could do not to keep me out of prison. And I knew, I can look in the mirror and know that a guy like me doesn't do well in prison. And I did not want to go to prison. That was the worst case scenario. And he said, well, your only bet is to finish this recovery program, the treatment center. And that's usually not a good recipe for someone getting sober, like an ultimatum. And my attitude would reflect that in the first 30 days, not doing AA, not really taking it very seriously, just kind of coming here, staring at the clock, waiting for it to be over, not being a part of the program, not getting a sponsor, a home group, not praying, just going to meetings because I had to. I don't want to go to prison. And at 30 days sober, after leaving an AA meeting, I walked into a Belk department store, stole a bunch of clothes, got arrested at 30 days sober. And I told the police officer, it was the best story ever. I looked at the cop in the back of the car. I said, sir, you don't understand. I'm in treatment, and I've been sober for 30 days. And I remember he looked at me, and what he said may have changed my life. He said, I don't care, and it would make you look better if you were drunk. And I thought about that for a second, and I was like, that's me, man. With no solution, 30 days sober, left to my own devices with absolutely no spiritual life, I'm the guy that walks into a Belk and steals a bunch of stuff. And then tries to say, well, you don't understand, I'm sober. No, you're not. You're not sober. You're not living what are you doing, But that changed my life. Sitting in the back of a cop car that day, sober, out of all the times I was in a cop car, for much worse, the time getting a shoplifting charge from Belk for stealing $60 worth of clothes was the time that really got through to me, And he wrote me a citation. He dropped me off at the treatment center. And for whatever reason, I got honest about it with a couple of friends of mine that were in treatment, and may have had one of the most important talks of my life with a guy who was 30 days sober, if not less sobriety than me. He said, Mason, did you really think you were going to just stay here for a year and go to meetings and not and not have to participate. What were you going to do? Just go to meetings for a year and not really be sober, not buy into what they're doing, and avoid prison? You think you're going to like fool the judges or something and go in there and they're just going to be like, oh yeah, like, what do you have to lose? You have to be here. Why don't you give AA an honest shot? And that just hit me very hard. That's a great question to ask anybody. What do you have to lose from trying AA? I had nothing to lose. I had absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain by giving this an honest shot. And at about 30 days sober, I asked a man to sponsor me, and he took me through the steps. He really suggested getting a home group, getting involved in the home group, showing up early, staying late. He suggested giving, as much as I did for alcohol out there. I was a slave to alcohol. I'm alcohol's number one fan. I will go to the ends of the earth to drink. And I was suggested to treat AA the same way. Like, go to the ends of the earth for AA. Go, do whatever you have to do for Alcoholics Anonymous. And that worked for me. It really did. I grabbed onto this thing like my life depended on it. And sure, my early sobriety was characterized by, countless days of feeling depressed and lonely and thinking about drinking. I wasn't cured right away. There were times I didn't want to go to that home group. I didn't want to meet with that sponsor. I didn't want to pray. When people did fun things in AA, like conventions and events, like sometimes I didn't want to do that. But I continued that phrase that I heard early on so much was take the action no matter what you feel or what you think. And I did that. I still hold on to that phrase, just take the right action. Take the right action. And eventually my thoughts and my feelings came around. I think at about 3 or 4 months sober, I kind of woke up and had this experience that, man, it's been a while since I've thought about drinking. It's been a while since I've obsessed about that girl. It's been a while since I've obsessed about going to prison. Through working the steps, I was able to come clean about what had happened that night in that house. I had been lying to detectives for a couple months. And I was able to talk to a detective and tell him the truth and say, hey, this is what happened. And he was able to let me leave and come back and get me and say, the family has forgiven you. They're glad that you told the truth. We don't know if there's any legal grounds to, they're not interested in prosecuting you. They just want to know the truth about their daughter. And I felt it wasn't about the outcome. I felt good about being honest. Who knew telling the truth was such a spiritual principle, And the simplest thing in the world, just to be honest, means such a difference. And I was able to take that same principle and apply it to kind of everyone in my life. When I approached my family and the friends that I had hurt, when I was able to be honest with them about the things I had done, it changed me. I had a psychic change. Within the first year, I had changed completely. My life, since then, has just taken a completely different course. I never talked about my sister. My sister did not like me very much. I was not able to hurt her really bad because she knew not to let me into her life. And she disowned me, hated me, and for good reason. And I tried to make amends to her, and she really wasn't very receptive. It seemed like I was never going to have a relationship with her. And at about 2 years sober, she called me and said, I need you to go to Crabtree Valley Mall because there's a store, and I want you to get fitted for a tuxedo because I want you to be in my wedding with my husband's side. And I swear I almost broke down in tears, And I went to Crabtree Valley Mall and did that, and I was able to pay for it. I was able to tell my sister, no, it's okay, I think I can cover it. Who would have known AA's, what you guys have taught me has just far, far beyond sobriety, but you guys taught me how to save money, how to budget, how to pay my bills. I don't know how that popped up in my head, but... So I was able to go to my sister's wedding at about 2 years sober, and I was able to walk my mom down the aisle. I was able to walk my grandmother down the aisle, and it sounds so sobby, and I kind of I feel how cheesy I sound standing here saying that, but those are things you just can't write. The Hollywood writer can't write that script. For me to be able to be a family man today, my mom just moved back into the area, and I was able to be there for her, and. It's been an amazing journey, I'll say. At about 4 years sober, time flies. I don't know where the time's gone. I think I have a couple minutes I can squeeze a few cool stories in about, because I do assure you my life today is so purposeful, and Alcoholics Anonymous is my true love today. I love a lot of things, but nothing more than AA. It's the best thing. But when I was about 4 years sober, I was in a relationship, and that relationship ended. And that relationship ending put me in a really dark time. I kind of saw where maybe some of my spiritual fences had been broken. I wasn't maybe quite doing what I should be doing in AA, putting too much stock into a relationship. So, of course, when it ended, I was alone and terrified. And even with all the AA knowledge in the world and the fact that I had sponsored dozens and dozens of guys up to that point, I had forgotten this like basic rule that I know today, and that's that AA, I believe, has all the answers, that I don't need to go searching outside of AA for anything. I believe that everything I need is in this room tonight. And I forgot that at 4 years sober. Man, I just was so lost and confused. And I tell that story, I tell this story because if maybe you have some sobriety and you're a little confused tonight, or you're going through a dark time, I know what it's like for those dark times to come. I know what it's like to not want to find the answers in AA. But I met with my sponsor many times during those months of loneliness and depression and just not feeling spiritual. And he just assured me that if I completely gave everything to the program and just kind of almost recommitted myself to AA, that I would have a more powerful spiritual experience at 4 years sober than I did when I was brand new. And I promise you that is so true. I mean, I went to meetings every single night. I was Mr. AA. I swear, you saw me everywhere. I was doing everything because I was so desperate. And it was a different reason. It wasn't because I was afraid of drinking. It was I couldn't be alone. I like just gave myself to AA. And man, the people that came into my life the past 2 years, kind of this rejuvenation period of my sobriety, was just, it's been incredible. Who would have known that AA has the answers for everything? I mean, my life is, especially after that event, has just completely changed. So if you are going through some dark times, I know what it's like, and I would encourage you to keep moving forward. And today, a little bit about what's going on with me. About 9 months ago, or about a year ago, I was able to buy my first home. I never would have thought that was possible. With the help of people in AA, actually, I was able to get in touch with the right people to buy a house. I started a family. My girlfriend gave birth to our baby 2 months ago. I have a new 2-month-old. I've started a new career, and it's just been amazing. Who would have thought a guy like me could accomplish something like that? And it's really, I give the credit to AA. It's just things, but to me they're cool things, and to take it seriously. Of course, with all that comes problems. Mortgages are expensive, and I stress all the time, but you guys have been right on the money that when I give my life to AA, somehow things get taken care of. But I hope I've done a decent job tonight of carrying the AA message. I mean, and just if I could finish with anything, it would be that I love Alcoholics Anonymous. It's changed my life, and I don't ever want to doubt this program again. It has absolutely just changed me. I no longer think about drinking. The obsession has been removed, and it has stayed removed. And I live free and happy today. And I'm so thankful for good sponsorship, the steps, the fellowship, just so many great things. And hope to see some of y'all maybe this weekend at the Midwinter Conference if you're heading up to Raleigh. So thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.